Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Ryzen. In this video, I like to talk about guides and tips for Spectral Fantasies gameplay. There is 3 endings in Spectral Fantasies such as Blade Receipt, where you will face Will Flameblade as the final boss, Moonlit Farewell, where you will face Pack of Anti-Mummy as the final boss, and Finale of Fantasies, where you will face Woody as the final boss. In order to decide which ending you will encounter, you will have to make a correct choice order or decision in every encounter node. This one. Every time you start an adventure, there will always be 4 encounter nodes for you to make your decision and decide your ending. For example, if you want to get to Moonlit Farewell ending, you will need to follow this choice order. In the first encounter node, you will have to choose Investigate the Girl. In the second encounter node, choose Assist the White Cat. In the third encounter node, choose Enter the City's for supplies. And in the last encounter node, choose Ignore the Statue. Then you will meet Pack of Anti-Mummy in the final battle. So for the Finale of Fantasy ending, all you need to do is choose the option in every encounter node based on this order. Then you will meet Woody as the final boss. While for Will Flame, you probably already know because you simply need to choose any option that doesn't follow either of this order. By randomly choosing option, you will encounter Will Flameblade as the final boss. Next is the Seal buff. Seal buff is the most powerful buff in Spectral Fantasies gameplay. In order to activate the buff, you will need to accumulate Seal XP as much as you can by equipping certain treasures that provide the same Seal XP in your backpack. For example, if you want to activate the Ritual buff, you will need to equip treasures that have Ritual Seal XP until you accumulate 6 Ritual Seal XP in order to activate the first level. And if you manage to accumulate 14 or more Ritual Seal XP, then you will keep upgrading the Seal buff. Tips to quickly accumulate the Seal XP is, the higher the treasure rarity you equip, the higher the Seal XP they can provide. So try to find and equip as much high rarity treasure as you can. Some treasure can also provide side buffs such as increasing their own Seal XP and increasing adjacent treasure Seal XP. So by equipping treasure that contains such a buff, can help you accumulate the specific Seal XP. For the recommended Seal buff, Ritual Seal buff is the most powerful buff because it can significantly increase your operative attacks for a permanent duration, but you need to keep in mind that this buff will multiply your defense buff with a number based on its level and convert it into attack buff. So your defense buff will become 0, making your operative become very vulnerable to enemy attack. Just make sure to not get hit because if your operative is still at low level, the enemy might be able to one-shot you. Additionally, after you activate this Seal buff, just remember to also accumulate your defense attribute alongside your attack attribute. The second powerful buff is Scholar's buff, which can provide a large amount of attack percent buff after you spam standard skill for 10 times. This Seal buff can provide 10 stacks of Saber effect that can give a certain amount of attack percent buff, and 10 stacks of Guard effect that give a certain amount of defense percent buff. However, whenever your operative use standard skill, it will convert the Guard effect stack into Saber effect stack. Otherwise, if your operative get hit by the enemy attack, it will convert the Saber effect stack into Guard effect stack. Figure buff can also quite useful, but the attack percent amount it can provide are less than Scholar buff when you only facing boss enemy. The Hunt buff also quite useful buff if your main DPS is a sniper user, because this buff can significantly increase your shooting damage every 10 seconds, but it's only active every 10 seconds for a single shot. That's why this buff only effective for solid damage ballistic DPS operative like Yao Winter Solstice and Fritia Turbo. I don't recommend this buff if you use other type of operative. For the elemental buff such as 4 of these is great for mobbing, but the triggering mechanic is quite annoying where 2 of them require cross combat while the other two only active if your operative can deal a specific element. Armor buff will require your operative to get hit, so nope, but if you are a masochist, then yes. Lastly, Elixir is also a very good buff to increase your survival chance in case your operative is still at low level. Next is the Treasure. Regarding the Treasure, I will only talk about the most important thing you need to know about Treasure. First, you can forge the Treasure by combining Treasure of the same type and rarity. By doing this, you can upgrade the Treasure rarity to save up more space. But keep in mind that forging the Treasure will randomly generate new buff effect for the Treasure. Second, you can rotate the Treasure by clicking the Treasure before put it into your backpack. What you really need to pay attention to is the Treasure attribute and Seal XP. Just equip specific Treasure that have the necessary attribute or the required Seal XP in case you want to focus on upgrading a certain Seal buff or completing a certain mission. Fourth, when you buy the Treasure in Merchant Node, you can reset the available Treasure by clicking this button over here and paying some Stardust to reset it. By doing this way, you can keep browsing the offered Treasure until you find the one you need. But keep in mind that after several reset, the price for resetting will increase, but it will return to 10 Stardust currency if you just go to another Merchant Node. Lastly, if you run out of Stardust to buy the Treasure you need, don't hesitate to sell the useless Treasure you have. In case some Treasure have the Seal XP that you don't need, just sell them so you will have enough Stardust currency to buy what you need at the Merchant Node. Last is Urgent Mission. In this part, I will only explain the most difficult mission, which is upgrade the Seal buff to max level in a single adventure. The tips I can give to complete this mission is: first, focus on accumulating Seal XP for the Seal buff that require the least XP to max upgrade the buff. From here, you can see that Armor, Elixir, Blizzard, Thunder, Scholars have the lowest XP requirement. Figure, Hunt, Ritual, and Tage have the second lowest. Meanwhile, Gem has the highest XP requirement to fully upgrade the buff. I usually collect Armor, Scholars, Ritual, and Tage Seal XP because we can easily obtain Armor Seal XP from this Treasure. For Scholars and Ritual Seal XP, we can obtain it together from this Treasure. While for Tage Seal XP, we can easily obtain a large amount of it from this Treasure. But of course, it will depend on your luck again in the end. Additionally, even though Treasure with Gem Seal XP are the most common one, I don't recommend going for this one because they require 50 Gem Seal XP, which will take up a lot of your backpack space. Second, avoid forging Treasure as long as you still have enough backpack space, because most of the time, by equipping 2 Treasure of the same rarity can provide more Seal XP than forging them together, but it will take up more space indeed. Third, avoid holding your Stardust currency until the end just to buy all the high rarity Treasure, because higher rarity Treasure are very expensive, so even if you already collect a lot of Stardust currency, you will not be able to purchase much Treasure from that. Instead, every time you have above 1000 Stardust currency, go to the nearest Merchant Node to browsing some Treasure that you aim or looking for. However, make sure to stop pressing the refresh button when the refresh cost reaches 20. So we only browse the offered Treasure while the refresh cost is still in 10 Stardust. Fourth, sell any unnecessary Treasure that doesn't have the Seal XP you're looking for, so you can purchase more Treasure when you land on Merchant Node. Fifth, always prioritize boss battle and normal battle because they can give you a lot of Stardust currency and a Treasure. Even if the Treasure they give isn't what you are looking for, you can still sell it for an additional Stardust currency. 6. If you have Treasure that can increase adjacent Seal XP, try to utilize the buff by arranging their position as effectively as possible. Last, always max out your backpack space before you arrive at the last merchant node, because most of the time you will need to equip multiple treasures of the same rarity, which will take up a lot of space. You can expand your backpack space from Inscription node, Encounter node, Oasis node, Rarefied node if you are lucky, and Scammer node. I like Scammer node a lot since they can provide a lot of Stardust currency or backpack space expansion in exchange for getting a debuff. I think these are the guide and tips I can give. If you have more guide and tips, feel free to share in the comment section. Good luck with your adventure. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Cheers.